Welcome to this special edition of the Selma Sun Spotlight, where we are going to discuss the severe storms that came through central Alabama last night. I'm Cindy Fisher, publisher of the Selma Sun.
And I'm Todd Prater, staff writer for the Selma Sun.
We are going to discuss all of the issues that came through with our severe storms last night.
It was a scary, scary night. So we were watching all night long. And of course, the storms formed out west in, they were coming across Arkansas and Louisiana and Mississippi, and were not losing their punch. They were actually gaining strength as they moved east. And it was very, very scary because, well, it just looked like it had already done a lot of damage out west and was moving this way. So you knew that it was going to be serious here in the west and central Alabama when it finally did get to us.
But we did have several reports of tornadoes, but we have no injuries.
True.
But they came through Perry County,
Right.
a part of Dallas County, and went up through. We think we got lucky.
Yeah, we did really get lucky because what seemed to happen, and it's happened before, thank God, as the line of severe storms reached Alabama, the Alabama Mississippi border, they started to fall apart a little bit. And the really severe stuff went north. The way the systems work in Alabama, they come from the west. Within that line, the storms are moving north. So there's always a northeast movement of the storms. And as they moved from the west into Alabama, and those storms were moving north, the whole line started to fall apart and become a little, of course, by this time it was dark. The temperature was down. It started to become a little less strong, and they broke up a bit. So the worst of what hit in our immediate vicinity went northwest of us or southeast of us, and it missed Selma, Valley Grande altogether. That's not to say that all of us in our area were out of danger. We did have some damage, and there was some serious problems in our areas.
Right, and we actually have footage from our visits to these areas. We know that Fonsdale was hit pretty bad in Marengo County, and this would have been north of Marion, which one of our newspapers is the Marion Times-Standard. So we did have reports of damage in Perry County, and as you can see, homes along Highway 45 had damage, as well as Orville and parts. I actually went to the Rooks Farm.
Oh yeah, that one was very serious.
Yeah, and they have giant red barns that were twisted and turned. They're metal, so you can see the damage that happened from that. So some of the pieces of metal split and turned, and was all over their pasture, and you can see the line where it went over and tore up the red barn, metal barns, and then where it hit the tree line and went through the trees. You can see the twisted trees as well. Amazing. Into the woods. And they own, 1,000 acres out there. And it actually landed where their equipment was, not where just land was.
Right.
So they had wrenches that had been pulled off the wall and thrown into the pasture. And actually they weren't allowed to touch anything because the adjusters need to come, insurance adjusters, and the weather folks come and determine whether it was a twister or not.
Right, and
but it looks twisted.
Too.
They will. And there is metal, as you can see, twisted into trees. And
the straight line winds can still do that, but they do need to determine whether it's a tornado or whether really high straight line winds, and we can't tell. That's what the experts do.
I do know from my experience of being in storms like this, there were some wood pieces that were a good 4 to 6 inches into the ground, like missiles. So that is something that you will see often with a twister.
That's scary. I went down 45 and towards Marion and got some video of those trees. It was mostly tree damage. Thankfully, nobody was hurt. Lots of power lines down. There were a lot of guys redoing the power lines. They were fixing that one. I drove by. The road was blocked for a while. I know 5 and 22, I believe, over in Perry County were both blocked. 45 was blocked with this serious damage in that pasture, which obviously they were opened up by this morning and they were fine. But and thankfully, like you said earlier, again I want to reiterate, thankfully we have no reports of injuries. So
and the
that was
power
really good.
outages were pretty sparse, and they were put back online pretty quickly. Alabama
There you
Power
go.
had reports throughout the night, including I think the last one I got was at like 5 a.m. that said we've got everybody but 150.
Oh, that's good.
So at a certain point, unlike Hurricane Zeta, which came through and tore up the grid, I mean, it just took all of the lines down, and they had to start all over. And we went 6 days, 7 days with no power. This one, it's interesting when you see a storm like this come through. That's how you learn how rural your area is, because they were like all over the place about how it was very clear on the radar that something was on the ground and it was going, but we didn't, because we have so much wonderful land in our area of the Black Belt. It didn't destroy people, just some things.
Some things and some trees. A lot of area where, now it did destroy one of my favorite places. I almost cried when I saw that Fonsdale Bar and Grill got pretty much demolished.
There is a foundation, the FonsdaleFoundation.org, that has posted several things on social media about rebuilding in Fonsdale, and of course for the Bar and Grill and other businesses to help out, and are looking for donations and any kind of volunteer work.
I'm letting them know.
Also, the Cowboy Church that's in Uniontown, they were out there right across from City Hall feeding people today. After the storm, so they had a smoker out there and were making burgers and chips and drinks and feeding people in the Fonsdale area. And
that goes back to what you had said when we were recording our regular sunspot. It shines the sunlight on this area, because you got an area like this when we have a serious disaster, and even though this one probably wasn't as serious as say Zeta or something like that, it's still, the people who experience it, it's serious to them and they need help, and so the community comes together and what do? They feed each other, they help clean up, they take care of each other, they set up funds to donate.
And they quickly say we will rebuild.
And they do it because that's what we do.
It's exciting to see that part in any kind of disaster.
Amen to that.
But thank you for joining us for this special edition. And check us out on YouTube and Instagram and Facebook.
See you next time.
Share what your company has to offer during the Selma Sun Spotlight, a weekly newscast that earns 20,000 views a month on the Selma Sun social media platform. Insight shows viewership is heavy in the Selma, Dallas County community and stretches across the country, with those watching who love Selma from afar. Become a presenting sponsor, industry sponsor, contributing sponsor, or a segment sponsor. Contact publisher Cindy Fisher at area code 205-789-0973.